Need some new Kamigawa Neon Dynasty cards? Well, you can get them from our amazing sponsor, Card Kingdom, by heading over to cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish and even get a free goldfish sticker. Just let them know you want one in your order notes and they'll hook you up. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and today I'm joined by Crim. How's it going today, Crim?
Yo, what's up, Seth? Wrapping up kind of Kamigawa, like opening week stuff, right? So I'm pretty excited.
Today it's modern top 10 day. We in the past we did standard, we did historic, we got legacy coming up. Today we are talking top 10 cards from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty for my favorite format, modern. So like usual, Crim and I each made a list of our best cards for the format. You can see the individual lists in the article on the website. I'll link it in the description. And then we mashed it together to make this top 10 list. And we got some really exciting cards to talk about today, which means we should probably jump right into it. Starting with number 10 on our list, we had a card that I'm pretty high on, and maybe I'm overrating it because it calls back to one of the most powerful cards in the history of Magic in Tinker, and that is Anchor to Reality. 4-mana sorcery, sack an artifact or creature, search for an equipment or vehicle, put it directly on the battlefield. You might get to do some scrying, that's not really relevant. To me, this card, it calls back to Tinker, which is 1 less mana, and you sack an artifact and you get any artifact. Obviously, we got some restrictions here. You can only get an equipment or a vehicle. The good news is there's some pretty strong equipment that you can get. Something like Cauldron Complete, for example. Being able to tutor that directly out of your library, put it on the battlefield, start smashing your opponent with haste. To me, I think that means this card has a shot in Modern. If you think about Stoneforge Mystic, it's 2 mana to tutor equipment to your hand. It's another 2 mana to put it into play. Yes, there's benefits to breaking it up over the course of 2 turns, but really, I mean, this is getting a Cauldron Complete for the same amount of mana. You can even cast this on turn 3 off of a mana rock, cast some sort of signet or something, and then just turn 3, sack it, get a Cauldron Complete. So anytime you see something that efficiently tutors stuff directly to the battlefield, you got to take notice of it. So I'm pretty high on the possibilities of this card, but Crim, I know I'm trying to sell you. What do you think? Any chance this could show up in Modern?
I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, yeah, like the callback to Tinker does like have something going for it, but at the same time, this is a 2 double blue, right? So we're thinking now we're gonna I mean, we're adding another color into what, Hammer Time? Is that the game plan? Like, I mean, like if you are like normally it's like usually black or something, and it's a lot cheaper. This is a 4-mana sorcery, so I'm a little skeptical on this card, as it only, as you had mentioned, is an equipment or vehicle. So it's not like it's gonna be like how Tinker gets some kind of broken artifact and just ends the game, right? So
that's true.
This is a bit slower to me. But I could see why you would like it. I mean, yeah, being able to get Cauldron Complete, putting it on the board, very nice considering that's a relatively hard to deal with permanent. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Anchor to Reality just might be a hair or 2 or maybe 5 hairs too slow for me.
Well, we will see. We will see. Obviously a little speculative, but I have high hopes that there's going to be a deck for, if not some sort of already built Stoneforge deck, maybe there's like some sort of Tezzerator style deck that can take advantage of it. So I think there's enough potential here that I'm hyped for it, but obviously speculative pick. We'll see once the cards actually come out. Moving on to number 9 on our list. We got one that I know you like, Crib, because this was on your list. One of the March cycle, March of Reckless Joy. Generating some card advantage, a little bit like a light up the stage almost, except you don't got to damage your opponents. What do you think about this one in Modern?
Yeah, this is an instant speed. Like, of the March cycle, I mean, I thought about maybe the white one, but like legitimately the red one's the only one that seems to make sense to me. They're all instant speed and they're all X and like a color. I like that. And so the card reads, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may exile any number of red cards from your hand. The spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. And then you can exile the top X cards of your library. You may play up to 2 of those cards until the end of your next turn. So, this could be a pretty beefy, light up the stage. You can exile a bunch of dead cards, dead red cards. Let's say you've got a bunch of, I don't know, what's that landfall burn spell? The one that if you hits a creature, it deals 3.
Oh, Searing Blaze.
Searing Blaze.
Yep.
You have a bunch of dead Searing Blazes. You can change that, right? You can now, like, this is like a really solid, like, it's almost like a red rev for like burn decks and things like that. So I don't know. I think this is a good just card advantage thing that they could just get in like a red deck, and it's instant speed. So I love that.
Yeah, I actually think this card has a decent amount of potential in Modern. So at 3 mana, it compares to Light Up the Stage without being able to spectacle it, which isn't super exciting, although it is an instant. And you can exile cards to make it cheaper, which is an upside. What really sells me on this card is Reckless Impulse. Reckless Impulse is just 2 mana sorcery, exile the top 2 cards of your library and play them until your next turn. That's a card that when it was printed a couple of sets ago, I didn't really pay much attention to as far as older formats, and it has quickly become a card that sees quite a bit of play in Modern. To me, this seems like a very upgraded version of that effect, having the option to pitch a dead card, being able to potentially dig through your top whatever cards and finds the ones that you need, being able to do it instant speed. That opens up all kinds of possibilities. So we see the scene play in like maybe Prowess style decks as a backup Light Up the Stage, Prison style decks like Blood Moon Prisons often plays Reckless Impulse. Being able to pitch cards can actually be an upside if you're ensnaring bridging and trying to stay empty-handed. So I think this card can potentially show up in a few different places in Modern, and is definitely, well, the white one's pretty good too, but I think this is the one that has the most potential for Modern in specific. Moving on. Number 8 on our list, we got our old friend Biting Palm Ninja, which has shown up on all of our top 10s, a little bit lower here, coming in only at number 8 on our list. But Crim, what do you think about this one in the Modern format?
So I love the ninjas in Standard and Historic, but I do love them even more so in Modern, as I was playing Sultai Fairy Ninjas, stuff like that. And look, in Modern, now you've got really good cheap cards to ninjutsu this in with, right? You've got Fairy Seer, you've got all that stuff. You got Ice Fang Coatl if you need to. Whatever it is, you can ninjutsu those cards back and easily get value with them later. And then, of course, with that, then that means you get to connect, and exiling in Modern is probably one of the most important things you could be doing. Exiling, and it's not only just a Thoughtseize, it's just, you don't even lose the 2 life, right? So you just exile, you get a 3/3 body. It's not like a house. It's not like I'm not cutting my Thoughtseizes for these, because that's a 1 mana thing versus a 3 mana thing that requires you to like connect. But I will say that this is still a decent card in any kind of tempo-y deck. Would I play this in any basic black deck? Maybe like mono black or something like that, and a few other creature decks like that. But yeah, like there's like I can see like maybe 4 shells, like picking up a Spell Stutter Sprite and things along those lines. So there's definitely some play to Biting Palm Ninja in Modern.
Yeah, I think I'm mostly about where you are in this card. I think this card is great in ninjas. And Modern is maybe the best home for ninjas, because you get Ninja the Depowers and Ingenious Infiltrator, which are the 2 most important ninjas. So I think that ninjas in Modern definitely has a lot of potential. Biting Palm Ninja, perfect for a deck like ninjas. You mentioned fairies, other tempo style decks. I think it's got a shot there too. And as you said, I don't think it's a card that you can just jam into any black deck. In Standard, I'm a little bit higher on this, or even in Historic, being able to show up in more shells. In Modern, I think it's got to pretty much be some sort of tempo deck where you have these cheap evasive things to pick up. But in those shells, the card's great. Like, people play Vendilion Click, people play Elite Spellbinder to some extent in Modern. I think Biting Palm Ninja can do that same thing in the right deck and do it really well. Plus, its trigger is even better than a Vendilion Click or whatever, because you're actually just getting rid of a card forever. You're not giving your opponent another card, so it has some upside there. So in the right shell, Biting Palm Ninja gonna be one of the best ninjas that you can be playing in your deck.
Definitely.
Moving on to number 7 on our list, we have Invoke Calamity. Oh my goodness. Modern is a format where I'm most excited about this card. Invoke Calamity, 5 mana, lots of red mana, blah, 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 blah. Cast up to 6 mana of instant sorceries from your hand to your graveyard. The reason I am so hyped about this in Modern in specific is Modern's the Ponza format. It's a Ponza format. In Modern, we have a ton of 3 mana land destruction spells. Historic, we have 1 in Stone Rain. Standard, we have 0. So in Modern, you got Pillage, you got Molten Rain, you got Stone Rain. There is a abundance of 3-mana land destruction, and it is pretty easy to go turn 1 Mana Dork, turn 2 blow up a land, turn 3 blow up a land, turn 4 flash this back, blow up both your remaining lands. That essentially just wins the game. Like, that essentially just, how do you come back from that? Like, you don't come back from that. So I'm hyped about this in Pawns in specific, although I think it can do more than that as well. What are you hyped about for Invoke Calamity in Modern, Crim?
I mean, yeah, this card just does a lot in Modern. And Quad Red, normally a problem in like maybe other formats, but in Modern, it's so easy to get Quad Red. We have filter lands, you have all that stuff, so the cost doesn't feel that bad. And then you also get to do something as simple as, I don't know, cast some 6-drop spell, and you get around the sorcery speed stuff, so you could like Glimpse of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like all the free
true.
spells in Modern is just, oh, that's beautiful. Like that's exactly what you want to do. Cast some other spell plus Glimpse of Tomorrow, why not? Sure. Have it all. And that's why I think in Modern, this is where this card's going to get some of its most power. Or like the most of its power from.
Yeah, we've seen decks using like Finale of Promise being 3 spells in 1 to get back Arclight Phoenixes or flip Thing in the Ice, stuff like that. Invoke Calamity can kind of do the same thing, and it can cast the no mana value spells, as you mentioned, like Glimpse and Ancestral Visions and Rhinos and Crashing Footfall. So there's definitely a lot of possibilities for this card. And I mean, it's a very efficient card. You're getting 6 mana worth of spells for 5 mana and breaking timing restrictions. Like, someone's gotta find a way to break that, right? There's gotta be something broken in Modern. Well, let's keep moving on. Next on our list, we're entering the world of vehicles with Reckoner Bankbuster. Reckoner Bankbuster, kind of a Maze Mind's Tome essentially vehicle, but also a 2-mana 4/4 if you can crew it. What do you think about this one, Crib?
In Modern, this is so much more than just a Maze Mind's Tome, right? Like this is also a body, and a body that doesn't just get removed by Bolt. Of course, Unholy Heat and Solitude, sure, but that's just, it's fine because this is a card that has already gotten its value. Once you can start crewing this and attacking with it or whatever, it's already gotten so much value. Because if they answer this with a Path or whatever, or a Solitude or a Fatal Push, anything like that, you've already drawn your cards. You've got some bodies left behind. This is a 4/4 beater, and it crews it, 3, not actually that much of an ask, not too tall of an order there, to hit 3 power. So just an all around very good, cheap threat on top of that. So yeah, like it's just everything you want out of a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, this card I think is very, very good in Modern. Maze Mind's Tome sees a bit of play either in just Eldrazi Tron decks or is a tutor option for Karn the Great Creator. And I think that is kind of the floor for this card for me. I think it has main deck potential, but I think worst case, this is probably an upgrade as a Karn target out of your sideboard, because if you're getting a Maze Mind's Tome with Karn, by the time you turn it on, 4 turns to gain the life, that's just really, really slow. This can give you that same card draw, but it can also give you a much more immediate blocker to keep your life total high. So I think that this, worst case, has a home in the Karn board package. Best case, I mean, it's just good stats. If you can crew this up, a 2-mana 4/4 that also can generate card advantage and has some upside once you remove all the counters, that's just a really powerful effect.
100%, yeah.
Let's keep moving forward. Next on our list, we have perhaps the most important ninja, I think, for making ninjas into a real thing in Modern. Thousand Face Shadow, just a little 1-mana 1/1, but it does so much more in a ninja deck. Crim, tell us about it.
Okay, so for a 1-mana 1/1 flyer, by the way, so we had mentioned Fairy Seer, but now we have a Fairy Seer that's actually in Tribe. And then on top of that, when it connects, or when it enters the battlefield from your hand, if it's attacking, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. That token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. One of the biggest things here is we had talked a little bit about this before, and wow, the tokens don't even go away. They stay. These tokens stay. You're so used to seeing these like token producing effects kind of just remove the token at the end of the turn and it's temporary. So this goes above that. It lets you keep the token. It itself is cheap. It can be the enabler of the ninja engine, or it could be the payoff, for the Ninja engine. This is, what you can play on 1, get Biting Palm Ninja in on like 3, and then when you attack with Biting Palm Ninja, send the ninja back. Like you could do a lot of bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, this card is exactly what a ninja deck wants. Ninja decks want 2 things. They want cheap evasive creatures that you can pick up for ninjutsuing things into play, and then they want things with ninjutsu that you can cheat into play. This is one card that does both. Like in a ninja deck, on turn 1, you just run this out as a flying men, so you can ninjutsu an ingenious infiltrator or whatever into play on turn 2, and then if you draw it off the top later in the game, it's still good. When, a lot of other 1-mana 1/1s would be pretty bad. You don't really want to draw your Fairy Seer on turn 4 or a Changeling Outcast. They're just a little underpowered, but this, because you can ninjutsu it into play, you draw it off the top on turn 4 and you can ninjutsu it into play, copying your ingenious infiltrator or whatever. So I think this is just a new staple ninja. This is in your ninja deck 100% of the time in the 1-drop slot. It is exactly what that deck wants to be doing.
Do you think this is almost good enough to play in just any cheap tempo deck?
Maybe. So we got competition. You got like Judge's Familiar and other like 1-mana 1/1 flyers. I think it would depend on having something good to copy. Like if you got something that's worth copying, then I think this would definitely be worth considering. Just as a random threat, 1-mana 1/1, I don't know if that's going to be enough. Or if you have something really good to ninjutsu, like if you're picking up Muldrifters or picking up, things with ETB triggers, Spell Quellers and Ice Fang Quaddles and stuff like that, then this gets very, very exciting. So yeah, I think there are other tempo shells where this could be good. I think it's clear staple in ninjas, but good enough that in other shells it has a shot too, probably. Let's keep moving on. Next on our list, we got a little bit of blue card draw in Discover the Impossible, kind of card draw / tutoring / free spells. Crim, what are you thinking about this one?
So this card right here screams modern, right? Like this is the one where I thought it was like pretty good in historic, but it's even better in modern because you pay 3, you look at the top 5 of your library, exile one of them face down, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if it's an instant spell with mana value 2 or less, if you don't put a card in your hand. Modern is like loaded with 2 or less, right? And obviously this one only casts instants, so you can't just go and play, Glimpse of Tomorrow or whatever, right? But the thing here is this card still does a lot of what you want it to do in like a Phoenix style deck, which could be played in modern there, a Prowess style deck that wants to like dig for something, maybe bolt to the face, grow all their armies. There's definitely decks that can use this. And I'm wondering, maybe not right now, but I can't help but feel like eventually that cast, an instant spell with mana value 2 or less for free that turn is going to become a problem. I think that's going to be pretty good at some point.
Yeah, if we ever get something like the no mana value sorceries that are instant, then this card, oh my goodness, then this card could just be like legitimately broken. But even as it is, I think this card's really solid. In modern, as you mentioned, there's a lot of stuff that costs less than 2 mana or less. You have stuff like actual counter spells. So being able to dig through your deck to find a finisher or desperation mode, hit a literal counter spell, that seems good. The other place that I think it's pretty exciting is in Storm style decks. Like Storm style decks, you already are playing these pieces to dig through your deck to find your finisher. Plus you have the upside that if you don't find your finisher, you can hit a Consider or a Opt, or you can hit a Manamorphose, or you can hit an actual ritual, which essentially would make this 2 spells for free if you're casting this and then hitting a ritual. So I think that digging 5 cards deep, really beneficial in combo style decks that are looking to sling a bunch of spells in a turn. And as you mentioned, decks like Phoenix as well, where this is 2 spells towards your Phoenix with 1 card. So I think this card, to me, also just kind of screams out modern. Good now and potential to be even better later as we keep getting more and more cheap instants.
Fully, yeah.
Moving on to number 3 on our list, we got a pretty simple one. Secluded Courtyard, a new tribal land, makes a mana of any color of the creature type that you've chosen. This is basically a slightly upgraded Unclaimed Territory, upgraded because it can also activate the abilities on your creatures of the chosen type. So a very slight upgrade. I don't know how relevant that upgrade is, but Unclaimed Territory, it's basically a staple. There are decks that play 4 of them. Tribal decks like 5-color elementals, 5-color humans.
What's the Ziggurat? Ancient Ziggurat?
Oh my god. Oh, Ancient Ziggurat's so brutal. Like, I will be super thrilled to be able to cut Ancient Ziggurat from decks like that. If Secluded Courtyard lets me do that, that would be so awesome, because Ziggurat literally can't make mana for non-creatures, and that runs into some issues with your sideboard cards. Like, there's times when you play it and you really need to make mana and it can't do it. So I think even though this isn't the flashiest card, it is very much almost a functional reprint of a card that's already a staple in Modern. So it's hard for me to imagine that this one being slightly upgraded is not also a staple in those tribal decks. But well, what do you think, Grim?
At the very least, if they don't replace, like they're going to, the floor is they just replace Unclaimed Territory, right?
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. But on top of that, there's so much more. And plus, why not have Unclaimed Territories 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? This is going to be great in any kind of 5-color, like any tribal deck. You could have slivers, you have humans, you could do whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big deal, because a lot of those decks, if you're going like full on 5 colors like Sliver, you just want as many of these lands as possible to make sure that you can actually cast all your spells. And this is another good one. You got Cavern of Souls, and now you got Unclaimed Territory, and now you got this. You have half of your mana base can be full of these 5-color lands that don't even cause any pain, and many of them have upsides like Cavern with uncounterability. So definitely a big deal for 5-color mana bases for tribal decks in specific. Moving on to number 2 on our list, head into the world of equipment creatures with Lion Sash. Modern, kind of a Stoneforge Mystic format. Is that the plan, Crim? Maybe tutoring this up in our Stoneforge decks?
Yeah. This is awesome, right? Now you have like Hammer Time decks and equipment decks that can just like, Stoneforge tutor up the graveyard hate. So, of course, this is going to now be met with like, a lot of like, the people are going to be really ready for artifacts now, especially if they're a graveyard-centric deck. But the nice thing about this is that exactly that. You can tutor it up with Stoneforge. And on top of that, it's not exactly the worst thing to draw because it can grow pretty big, pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is guaranteed to show up in Stoneforge decks, if not in the main deck, then in the sideboard. It's a really, really powerful card. Having tutorable graveyard hate, especially in a format like Modern, where Lurrus is a thing, where Dredge is a thing, where Reanimator has become quite a thing ever since Modern Horizons 2, where Yawgmoth combo is a top tier deck. There's so many decks that are either using their graveyard for value or just straight up comboing off out of their graveyard. This is a card that you play a single copy of in your Stoneforge package, and it is going to answer all of those archetypes. And as you mentioned, it's a great mana sink. In a format like Modern, lands get in the graveyard more than creatures because everyone's playing fetch lands, and being able to grow off of any permanent, that's a huge deal. It's very practical. You play this and exile a few lands from the graveyard and it becomes like a 5/5, and then you move it over on your Flicker Wisp or whatever evasive creature, your Ornithopter, and you have a pretty reasonably big creature. So I feel like this card is just so good for Stoneforge decks, and probably also random, I guess Stoneforge is also there, but I was going to say like Pure Seal Paladin, any equipment style deck, this is going to be really good. And I don't know, maybe even just played fairly in some decks as well. If you're in green, you get Scavenging Ooze, which is probably better if you don't have equipment synergies, but this is still a really potent hate card that can turn into a really potent threat as well.
I think I would play this in the main deck, and there is a debate that this might just be better than Scavenging Ooze because, yeah, you can exile target card from a graveyard, right? If it was a permanent card, put a 1/1 counter on Lion Sash. That's a little bit better than a creature, right? Because Modern is like, the mana base is like, yeah, as you had mentioned, just like lots of fetch lands. So lands hit the yard all the time, being able to hit a bobble, anything like that. Like there's a lot here that you can just eat up.
Yeah, I think the question is, Ooze gains you life when you exile a creature. This never gains you life. So is the life gain of Ooze and a slightly bigger starting body, is that more of a payoff than being able to grow when you exile any permanent and turning into an equipment that you can put on other creatures? I think it's actually really close. And it probably depends on the matchup in the metagame, but they're very comparable power level, I think.
Yeah, I think they're very comparable power level because it just depends on the deck, right? The fact that this is tutorable by a card that's already being played, and it's just like, why not make your Stoneforges better?
Yeah, that's what puts it over the top, is just this Stoneforge is played in a lot of decks, and this can find it very easily, consistently in the matchups where it's good. So yeah, really big addition to Modern. Well, let's move on. Number 1 on our list, You probably saw it coming. We got channel lands for the clean sweep, actually. Number one on all of our top 10 lists. So you see Boseiju there and Adwara, which I think are probably the two best ones for Modern in specific, even though they're all really, really good. Crim, is there anything else that we can say about these lands that we haven't already said?
Amulet Titan might be like something that we should look at for maybe the Banhammer sometime soon. Like, Amulet Titan has no right being around for as long as it has, and now it's just gonna get even better because these are like, I can't interact with these unless I start packing stifles, dude. This is looking pretty dangerous. Like, I think they're very good cards and they're powerful and they're great to have in other decks. But the problem here is I can only think of one deck that's going to really be abusing these, and it's got to be Amulet. It's got to be Amulet.
So I also think that Primeval Titan decks are kind of on the top end of power in Modern, especially when they're at their best. They can be very devastating. We'll have to wait and see as far as actual BNR stuff, but you hit on something that I think is really notable with these lands, which is they're probably at their best in Modern. In Standard and in Historic, where we talked about them, they're just good value lands, but there's not a ton of shenanigans. In Modern, there's all kinds of shenanigans. You got the Primeval Titan tutor this out along with a bounce land to pick this up and then activate it. You got Ren in 6, which is just getting lands back all the time. You got Life from the Loam. There's so many. You have Urza's Saga tutoring up Expedition Map that can tutor up another land to get rid of a hate card or something with Boseiju. So in Modern, there's so many synergies for these cards that I really think they are potentially going to change the format. And I would honestly not be surprised if, as a result of these cards, it did get to the point where we're talking about Primeval Titan bans or Ren and 6 bans or whatever. Like, I think that is the power level of these cards, that they might actually, if not themselves being banned, getting other cards banned in the format. Obviously, really, really premature. I hope that doesn't happen, but that's how strong those cards are, that I think these are just like format changing cards, honestly, in Modern.
I think these might be either, like something will have to go. Either these, and I don't imagine them banning this like a month after these come out. So I think what's going to happen is exactly as you had mentioned, because the Ren and 6 loop is going to feel pretty bad. It's going to hurt. And at the same time, I also, hate cards. They served a purpose, right? They made it so your bad matchups, like the unfair decks, actually had to play a fair game and actually work to kind of, like claw their way out of things. But with something like Boseiju, like they can easily just answer your Leyline of the Voids, your rips and all that stuff super easily now. Like it's not even hard. It's attached to a land which they can find very easily.
As a Blood Moon player, these cards almost make me sad, honestly. Like, I don't know how do you play Blood Moon, Chalice of the Void, Trinisphere, like those style of lock decks anymore? Like, they're just such clear answers that are attached to lands that can show up in so many decks. So I think these cards are just going to really change what isn't playable in the format and potentially lead to, as we both have said, potentially even lead to bannings. Like this isn't just like a really good cycle of cards. This is probably the best cycle of Modern cards that we've talked about in the last year of doing top 10 videos or something. If we did an all-time top 10 since we've been doing this, I think that this land cycle would rank very, very highly. Yeah, for all-time top 10 since we've been doing spoiler videos.
They don't even enter play tapped. So, sure.
Yeah, so good. So insane. Wow. So anyway, I think that brings us to the end of our top 10 Modern cards from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Crim, thanks for hanging out and doing it. It's always a blast.
Yes, thank you for having me, Seth.
And thanks to everyone for watching. So again, if you want to see our individual lists, go over to mtggoldfish.com, click the link in the description, check out the article. You'll find it there. And tomorrow, we're going to have a top 5 legacy list with Joe Dyer, who does This Week in Legacy and Vintage 101. So come back for that to hear about some legacy action. And of course, now that you've seen our top Modern cards from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, let us know what you're hyped for. What do you have on your Modern list? What are you playing from the newest set? Let us know. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will talk to you soon. Looking for even more Kamigawa Neon Dynasty coverage? Well, you can find some other awesome videos right here and here.